Good afternoon, radio listeners, and welcome to the news behind the news on Mix 94.7 FM. I am Ralph Kintav, and today I'm glad to have the guests that I have here with me because we're going to be talking about a question, some topics, but particularly one of the questions that so many people tend to ask, which is why does Maarten have bad roads? But my guest, he's able to deliver much more on that. Part of the reason why I brought him on is because I've always enjoyed some of the discussion points or topics that you've shared online on Facebook. I think that you're very well opinionated about particularly, different stuff that happens on the island. So, Mr. Sheldon Ellis, welcome to the program and thanks for coming.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the opportunity being here, man. So thank you. Whatever you want to discuss, we could do that. So
cool.
Thank you.
So, we start off about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, growing up, whatnot, and then we get into it.
Okay, so I was born in, I grew up like half and half in St. Maarten, and then the rest I grew up also in New York City. From there, I came back to St. Maarten. I did a few years of high school here. Then I gathered my associates.
Which high school?
St. Dominic.
I should have went that
The best, of course. Shout out to St. Dominic. So yeah, man, St. Dominic was a great experience. So that was amazing. That was a culture shock. Again, I've been through many culture shocks coming from New York City back to St. Dominic. And then from high school, we went back to Tallahassee for my associate's degree. And then
TCC?
Yeah,
okay.
TCC from there. And then from there, came back, St. Maarten, worked a few years, and then went get my engineering bachelor's degree in Holland.
Okay.
So it's been a lot of different cultures and settling and moving around and stuff like that. But it's been quite an experience.
Okay. Well, I don't want to leave it just there on the surface because I do find that interesting. Growing up in the U.S., back in St. Maarten, back to the U.S. then the States. Then Holland. But so how was it like growing up in the United States with a Caribbean identity?
Whoa, the first year that we moved, I was pretty young. I think I was still in elementary school, but it was pretty rough. It wasn't the best neighborhoods in the world. It was pretty rough that time. I don't remember. You remember those shoes, Buffalinos?
Yes, the Buffalinos.
So I'll tell you a quick story about Buffalinos. So I came from St. Maarten with my fresh Buffalinos, thinking I was all that. I went to school, and then the first day of school, a kid literally goes under the desk, breaks a pen, and just throws ink all over my Buffalinos.
God.
And I was like getting roasted the entire week until I had to beg my mom to buy me some Nike sneakers and stuff like that. So
Buffalinos.
yeah, it was a real culture change, Then I had to learn quick. But New York City, man, I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was a difficult experience, a lot of fun as well. I tell people that America doesn't get enough credit for their culture. There's a lot of culture in America, and it was just a great experience, man. I've never been so much more involved into sports, music, arts. I was involved in everything up there, so it was an amazing experience. And then coming back to St. Maarten, it was a bit more laid back, different environment. It wasn't the concrete jungle anymore. I remember my first day back in St. Dominic. I'm looking around at all the kids, and it was so much different nationalities and cultures and stuff like that. And where I was from, all we knew was black people, Mexican people, you know what I mean? So that opened up my eyes a lot. And then traveling to Holland opened it even more. Yeah. Because I didn't take the typical route like how most people go to Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Den Haag, those type of places. But for me, I was in Zeeland, way down south.
Oh, I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, so countrysides, man. And but it was great. I met all types of... I made friends from people from Russia, from Latvia, Ethiopia, Portugal, like some of my closest friends today. So it really broadened my perspective on this world. And... wouldn't trade it for nothing. And
do you think, I guess, that experience you had helped you be able to network with people easier?
Most definitely. I always tell people my gift and my curse is that I can't fit in anywhere, but that allows me to fit in everywhere.
Makes sense.
Know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like it's been great. So I can definitely wiggle my way through different cultures and different environments and stuff like that without any problems. So wouldn't trade that for the world.
Okay, cool. And what is it like then having in your opinion, having two homes? Because I guess you still consider New York home.
I wouldn't. I love New York. I wouldn't consider that home. I think
Okay.
St. Martin is definitely my home.
Okay.
Yeah, St. Martin is where my heart is at for sure.
Okay, cool.
For sure.
Understood. So, but on that note too, still dwelling on your back and forth. Let's say, did you feel like you had that knowledge of self as a St. Martiner though throughout your experience?
That's a good question.
Do you feel like, I guess, whether it's even in your family and having that, understanding of St. Martin history, your culture and so forth?
No, absolutely not. I did not. Even when I came here, like when I moved back here, like I always had a thirst for more understanding of my culture and my history and stuff like that, but it's not provided. I mean, that can be a whole other deep conversation about how the worldwide global curriculums are not really delivering what we need as young adults and students and stuff like that in regards to history and just learning where we came from and stuff like that. And I think it would unify us way more as a country if we understood what we've been through, what we came from and stuff like that. Even the Caribbean history, man. Like when I learned about how Haiti freed themselves and they hopped on boats and started freeing other islands, like why are we not learning about that? You know what I mean? Like that stuff right there. Like I remember when I came back, like living in America, for example, I hope I don't get too controversial, but living in America, like
don't hold back.
the Haitians are regarded not like here. You know what I mean? So like when you speak to a Haitian person in America, like a lot of people have respect for Haitians and stuff like that. But then I remember when I came here, they were treating the Haitians here like they treat the Mexicans down there. Like they lower class.
And I can tell you that, but someone, both my parents are from Haiti.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. And that's why the last name is like Cantav. Where's that from? It's Creole.
Oh, okay.
Cantav.
Okay, Cantav.
So basically, to touch on that, it's like, you even felt like you should hide a part of who you are. And that's very dangerous, as a child, because it's like, whoa, I can't even share a part of me because in somehow our society finds it demeaning. But, as you mentioned, the Haitian Revolution, that's something I always talk about, because I remember the moment where I gained that confidence was in studying African history and studying
when you learned the Haitian Revolution and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I was like, wait a minute.
That's what my people did.
The narrative is different now.
Exactly.
There's a different narrative.
Exactly.
You can't tell me anything bad about Haiti.
Exactly. I agree. When I learned that, I had so much more respect for Haiti, and I was like, man, why are we not teaching our kids these things? You know what I mean? So we spent more time teaching about Christopher Columbus and all these other European great people. But,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, like let's learn about our history. Let's learn about our kings and our queens and stuff like that. And I'm sure that will help our younger generation become kings and queens themselves. I really believe so.
Yeah, so. And so even now as an adult, how have you, I guess, sought ways to dive into learning our St. Martin history in particular?
Well, self-education is the key, definitely. Thank God for YouTube, thank God for books and stuff like that. Like once you start understanding that school is not really teaching you everything that you need to know in life, you start getting this thirst for. I've always been curious for more. I've always had I love learning. That's my number one. I always want to learn something. So once I started figuring that out, like I just became self-educating. Right now, my biggest thing with self-education is financial literacy. So ever since I graduated from school now, it's been about 2 years, like every day, man. Like that's the only thing I watch on YouTube podcasts or financial guys, and just learning about money, things we never learned in school.
And that is even taboo for us. It's, you mentioned money contracts, something black and white, writing things down. It's like, get this away from me. It's
exactly,
it's a scary topic.
Exactly. And, like we've been doing things for such an old school way and very like things on the surface. You know what I mean? But then now when I start learning about money and where money comes from, how you grow your money and stuff like that, like these are the things we need to be teaching our locals and our people in St. Martin. Ownership, owning your intellectual property, patents, all of these things, man. Like it's so important, you know what I mean? But we just do things on the surface. You know what I mean? A lot of our local businesses is only on the surface. They don't know how to get to that next level. Like, how do you create a brand that's bigger than you? You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people get stuck into this cycle where they do their 9 to 5. A lot of people have a passion to do something else, so they go into another business, but then they get stuck in that business and they become like, you're basically an employee for your own self.
Yeah,
you know what
a
I mean?
glorified employee.
Yeah, and you're defeating the purpose of why you stepped out in the first place. And now you're a glorified employee with way more responsibility, way more like risk and expenses. So
and even the mental health pressure. And
yeah,
so forth,
you know. So I've been learning too. Like, okay, if you're trying to open up your business, you have to scale it. How to scale your business? How to each step you're being less involved in your business, so it could run on its own. It's more sustainable, so you can just focus on the growth, the brand, and stuff like that. And that's what it is. Like, there's a lot of companies, like big companies, right? The employees change all the time. The turnover rate is ridiculous, but because the brand is what it is, people still knocking on their door.
Correct.
And that's what we got to
And
focus
then
on.
there are systems in place that, hey, no matter even the CEO leaves, it will function.
Exactly.
Because it has a vision that is set to be accomplished.
Exactly. And that's one of the things we lack here in St. Maarten as well, is systems, processing, it's data. It's
Big D word, yeah.
It's a lot of. I'll tell you another thing. When I was in Holland, me and 2 other students, some of my close friends, we had a honors program where we went to different islands to study how islands can transition into sustainable renewable energy. And the first place we went to was Aruba. They were pretty advanced. They had a lot of pilot projects that they were running. We were able to see, and we kept asking different people for advice for like St. Maarten and other islands that were pretty behind in these areas. And the number one advice that everyone kept saying was St. Maarten needs to measure. They need to record. You don't know if you're going if you don't know where you're at. So as long as we don't have these measurements in place where we can record data and actually know, okay, and we did this in this amount of years, but we wanna aim for this target at this point. Running studies, pilots, innovation hubs, these type of things. Until we get to that point, it's always going to be a quick, short-term solution for every single thing. So,
yeah, I love that you said that, because in addition to that, it's like there are certain cultural traits that we have, and everyone has traditions and values, and some of the things we do it out of habit, and so it kind of becomes a culture. Culture does change, but one of the things, and I'm so glad you mentioned it, because I have several people who express that is the way we do things on this island. We can improve. Just because it's been a norm, it doesn't mean that it has to continue.
Yeah. I mean, and then the thing is too, like with all people in the world, change doesn't come easy. When you're trying to implement change, I think something that we really need to focus on, no matter what class you're in, rich, poor, middle class, the best way to go about change is for everybody to win. So if I'm trying to help the poor class over here, I need to make sure that the middle class and the rich class eat as well. Because once it's a we for all type of thing, it's more easy to get that change done. But what happened is a lot of people like to leverage change over something else. So I'm going to change this, but this person over here is going to suffer or lose a job or something like that. And that's where the friction always comes in, right? We need to do a better job of selling the idea of change to everyone, that's going to benefit everyone, and seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah. So did you always feel like did you always wanted to come back home though? When you went over to study, and what was it that made you say, you know what, I'll come home?
I'll be totally honest with you, man. Like, I've always wanted to come home. Even in Holland, that was my drive to come back home. I used to even feel a type of way when I would hear kids saying, "Oh, they don't want to come back to St. Maarten" and stuff like that. And I'm like, why? Like why do you choose to suffer in somebody other country? You know what I mean? Like, help build up your own country. But then, Ralph, I came back here.
Don't hold back, be honest, bro.
And I totally understand why people are very reluctant to come back here, because it's not easy. It's been really hard getting on your feet and stuff like that. So it's not if you don't have a strong backbone, if you don't have some type of entrepreneurial mindset, or if you're not coming down here with a goal and a mission, it could be very hard. I think I noticed that the students that come here with just looking for a job, if that's all you're doing is just looking for a job, then St. Maarten might not be the best place for you, because you're going to be very stressed. A lot of things, like you got to fight for a lot of things here. So you need to be, you definitely need to come down with a purpose. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned that that backbone. Yeah, because one of the things we can certainly do with is more of us coming back to create jobs, not just for ourselves but for others.
But it goes back to purpose, right? If you don't have a purpose, if you're just coming back to St. Maarten because the weather is nice, you're gonna be frustrated.
Because the weather's nice other places too.
Exactly. You know what I mean? True. So yeah, so like St. Maarten, the first year, especially with the whole pandemic and everything, man, it was a stressful first year, but things are getting much better. Things are improving, especially with the country as well. So, like as we keep going and we stay hopeful and we keep trying our best, and things going to get better, man. I strongly believe it.
True. So one of the things, even in that necessity, and one of the things that helped build this island is that strong sense of community that we have, collaboration. What is your thoughts on that, in ways in which our generation especially can come together to create change?
Man, I to be honest with you, I think our generation is doing a pretty good job from my perspective. I feel like there's a big cultural difference in the age groups. I think our generation is more we see each other on the same playing field. We like to work with each other. We have more of a bond together and stuff like that. And that's amazing because no offense, but I do think that the older generations kind of gave a bad role in how in their behavior. It was a lot of competition amongst them. Cutthroat. Like you gotta do this one to get over here, and that's not the games that we're trying to play. You know what I mean? Like we all trying to eat, we all trying to get there together, and that's the only way it's gonna be fun. Like. Yeah, like I don't see the point in getting rich by myself. You know what I mean? I want my country to do well. I want the people around me to do well, and we may not agree on everything.
Correct.
But we can't agree on everything, but it's just about respecting each other, tolerance, and just moving on and progressing, man. We're just being here stuck competing against each other for pennies. I say it all the time, like a lot of like our politicians and stuff, they fight for pennies, man. It's the money that these guys are fighting for is nothing. So
when you look at the bigger picture,
we have to start looking at the bigger picture. And I think our generation, the people I speak to, the people I see coming back to the island and stuff like that, they seem very focused. And yeah, man, I can't wait. I think we're slowly taking over those roles and positions, and I expect a lot of great change to start coming.
Okay, great. I don't think I touched on this, but what was the thing that what inspired you to study civil engineering?
So that's a good question. I think I was always intrigued with engineering stuff, even as a kid. I just didn't even know it. And then after high school, I did a summer program with Rummy. So I got a little bit of taste in that. And then I remember when I had to go to school, I couldn't get a scholarship for engineering because...
scholarship from here?
Yeah, a scholarship from St. Maarten because, I didn't study the science package, even though I begged St. Dominic to let me do the science package. They didn't want to take that risk. So I had to do business.
How were your CXC results though? I mean,
it was pretty good. It was pretty good. They just didn't think that I could have done the science package.
Okay.
And it's quite funny, like my best friend, he's also into, like, he does construction management and stuff in the States, very successful and stuff like that. They didn't allow him to take the science package. So that's something else we need to work on, right? Let kids choose their own future.
Yeah.
Because you guys try to direct my future and telling me where I need to go. And I ended up going back to the same place. So I got a scholarship for hospitality, had to go to Johnson & Wales. And then I'll never forget. I did one semester at JWU, and it just wasn't for me. We were sitting in class, and the teacher was going around asking all the kids to we had to remember the most touristic city in each state. And I remembered her going around the class, and I was thinking to myself, man, am I really paying $30,000 for something I can Google?
Yeah.
So after that, man, I was like, man, that's it, man.
Yeah, same for you.
Yeah, I'm aiming for the fences. If I don't even make it, I'm gonna die trying. You know what I mean? So I aimed for my dreams. I transferred to Tallahassee and started my associates in engineering, and it was extremely hard taking calculus 1, 2, and 3. I remember I watched a documentary about the Hoover Dam. When they created the Hoover Dam and all of the engineering stuff that the guy had to figure out to make that happen. And since then, I was in love with engineering. And that's what motivated me.
So that was like the light,
yeah,
light bulb.
Yeah, watching that. And also there was another documentary about underground water tunnels in South Korea. I think it's Busan. And there was a guy, man, it's on my Instagram too. There was a guy. He was like the main feature, cause he was like the main supervisor of the entire project. And I remember just like watching him be like, oh man, that is so cool. My first semester in Holland, I met him.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yep. I have a picture with him. It was like,
that's cool.
It was
man.
a divine moment, man. I was like, whoa, this is where I need to be.
Yeah. I feel you on that. Yeah.
So that was amazing.
That's pretty cool, man. Because indeed, you mentioned about your high school experience. Yeah, I think we can do far more by not capping ourselves. Like we really do set a cap for St. Maarten.
Yeah.
Like
Maarten nerds, why
only
we do that?
far. Like, bro, there's a whole world out there, and
why
we can tap into
back?
the resources of the world.
Exactly. Why you like? I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't the best high school student, and maybe that's why they didn't. Yeah, you ask my teachers, man. Like, and that's why they probably didn't have the best faith in me that I could do the science package and stuff like that. But I must say, shout out to St. Dominic. They had a lot of faith in me. I was not the cleanest kid. I was not the most well behaved kid at all. But they stuck with me. They gave me a chance, and I'm really thankful for it to this day because I made something out of it.
True.
So I appreciate it a lot.
Well, bottom line on that is like the Bible says. When I was a child, I behaved like a child, I thought like a child, and then I became a man. He put away all childish things. That's exactly. What it boils down to, man.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what it boils down to. Cool. Yep. So, in addition to that, one of the main questions I think every young person tends to ask you. You're like the go-to guy about infrastructure for a lot of us. Is
for my generation,
why does St. Maarten have bad roads? And I know you've made some posts about it and stuff. I would like you to go in detail about that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's no secret that I work for one of the main infrastructure companies on the island and stuff like that. But to be frank with you, the government gets what they pay for, of course, there's much better quality that you can deliver for asphalt and stuff like that. But there's so many. The thing is, you can have a PhD in asphalt and still don't fully understand it. So there's so many different factors that affect asphalt: the foundation, the flooding, the truck traffic, all sorts of things. And I think the biggest thing that affects our road quality is the lack of drainage. We have too much water resting on the roads. That is the main thing that messes up your asphalt. And the lack of regulation on our trucks. So our trucks have a big part to do with it. If you ever notice, there's a lot of places on the island with those ripples.
Yes. Yeah.
That's when the trucks are holding brakes and stuff like that, because the trucks are just way too heavy for our asphalt pavements. And in other countries that I learned, like in Holland, what they do is they balance, depending on your truck and how heavy your truck is, they have to meet certain regulations to balance the weight. So you need a certain amount of axles, a certain amount of wheels and stuff like that to balance the weight. But we don't have those regulations, so you have trucks carrying way too much load that our roads can handle. Another thing is we need to start experimenting with different types of asphalt properties. So instead of just doing the same thing every single year, asphalt patch here, we need to be a bit more creative. So let's say, okay, guys, we're going to make this part just an asphalt patch here, but then the second part, we're going to do a thicker base of asphalt. This part here, we're going to include recyclable materials in our asphalt, something I've been dying to get into. By using rubber, glass, and plastic into your asphalt, you can create much stronger, sustainable, durable asphalt. But we haven't got to that point yet where we start to experiment. And that goes back to our innovation hub that we don't have. You know, we don't have money that we invest into for research. So until we are willing to invest money for research, then we're not planting our seeds for the future. You know what I mean? We keep doing the same process over and over. Another thing with asphalt too, a yearly budget doesn't really work with the maintenance of an asphalt. If you really want to sustain the maintenance of asphalt, you need at least a 5 to 10 year budget, a 5 to 10 year plan.
So multi-annual, okay.
Yeah. So how a lot of big countries do it, they put the responsibility of the maintenance works into the hands of the contractor. So they would bid. They would have a tender out for different areas, different highways and stuff like that, and they would say, you need to maintain this highway at this certain amount of quality all the time, or else you could get fined and lose money. And so what a lot of contractors do, they become more creative. So now instead of waiting for a pothole to happen where they'll get fined, any little crack, they're sealing it up. You know what I mean? So that's something else we could go into is giving the responsibility to the contractors and stuff like that. But yeah, we just need to invest in the future with those type of
things. That's kind of eye opener.
Yeah.
But the one thing you mentioned, particularly investing more, the main issue with that is, can we? Because obviously. Coming off of Hurricane Irma, the pandemic and challenges that we've always had with our budgets. There's so many things that take up priority of our national budget. So it's like the roads, we deal with it when we can, and because then you might say, well, let's probably raise the road tax, but then it's like, we've been paying so much already, and
that's the thing. We are in survival mode, so you don't really have the funds to invest in your future, unfortunately. But I always believe that a leader should have vision, right? So I always feel that everybody in St. Maarten knows the problems. Yeah. Few people know solutions, and even fewer people know how to fund those solutions. And the people that know how to fund the solutions are the people that need to be leading right now. We need to figure out ways to generate more income for the island. And it doesn't have to be taxes. Taxes doesn't have to be the first resort. So for example, parking meters. We can establish more parking meters in town. That is $1 million industry that we could generate for the government. It'll pay back itself in 2 years. And then it also helps with the flow of traffic in town, because now you'll have people just lingering less. So now it's more like, okay, let me go in, get out, because I'm not trying to pay so much in traffic and stuff like that. And yeah, just those different ways.
Okay, cool. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Okay, great.
Good afternoon, listeners and viewers. You're tuned into the news behind the news on Mix 94.7 FM. And I'm here joined with Mr. Sheldon Ellis, civil engineer, as we're talking now on, our road networks. Well, the quality of our roads. Actually, we'll get into our road networks. I know that's something you often talk about. Well, we last left off on basically the quality of, the asphalt that we use, but also ways in which we can generate income. So I'll let you continue on that.
Yeah. So, and then there are, unfortunately, yes, you do have to go into taxes. I think moving into Holland, it really opened up my eyes on the importance of taxes and having a good, efficient government administration to facilitate these funds, because in St. Maarten, we're kind of spoiled in the sense that we expect a lot of things which we don't pay for. For example, the parking that I just mentioned, how in Holland, everywhere you go, you have to pay for parking. But here, we like to pull up on the side of the road and stuff like that. And all of that deteriorates our infrastructure. So parking on the sidewalk and these things, all of that needs to stop. Sooner or later, we are going to have to implement some type of waste tax. we can't keep pouring garbage into that dump.
Yeah.
You know, they came a long way. Like we no longer have these so much smokes and fires anymore.
Yeah.
But it's not a sustainable approach.
Yeah, because it still burns.
Yeah, a bit, but it's not a sustainable approach. We can't keep going higher and higher, and it's just not a bad look for our country. The infrastructure right now is a real eyesore. I think when I have friends and family that come to visit me here in St. Maarten, that's one of the things they mention is just like it just looks disorganized. It looks there's no planning to it. Like there's no zoning regulations. Like, wait, there's a factory here next to like houses. Wait, what? You know what I mean? So we just need to do a better job of planning, and people need to respect all the policies as well that came before then. If a minister set out a plan and a policy, then we need to continue that policy and that vision. Because if everyone is implementing their own plans, then
it's chaos.
It's just chaos, and that's how our infrastructure is looking right now.
Yeah. So you mentioned zoning, which in particular is interesting, but I guess things have gone so far now that you kind of ask yourself, how do we now restructure or redevelop? I do get that, overall in nation building, or rebuilding. Sometimes you have to destroy things, dismantle things. But the process of doing that now is not that
That's
easy.
the unpopular part, you know. So,
but it needs to be done.
Yeah, it needs to be done. Someone has to do it. Someone has to like tear down the houses that you built. You didn't have a building permit. You're bringing down the value of other people's houses in the neighborhood. You're blocking this person's vision from seeing outside of their window because you don't have a permit and stuff like that. So yeah, unfortunately, we're gonna have to go into an era where people are going to have to start paying their fair dues for not being totally invested into the island. Like, for example, I've been seeing huge apartment buildings being built, and I'm like, where's the parking?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Where's
so
the parking for all these tenants? Yeah.
Where's the parking? So it's going to be an extremely difficult job to go back in and then start finding these people. And then these same people might say, hey, but we got the permit. So then what do you do as a government if you're the one who's giving out those permits and stuff like that? So it's a tough job. I'm not going to say that it's going to be easy. But
and it definitely won't be overnight.
It won't definitely it won't be overnight. But like you said, the main thing is generating the funds to get those things done. That's going to be the main thing.
Yeah, definitely. Because in addition to that, as you talk about building and so forth, one of the things that we've unfortunately seen is how our environment has been so negatively impacted. Because you look at old pictures of St. Maarten and like. Jeez, peace. I wish I was able to just visit that, that time period just for a day.
Yep.
To see the lagoon in its glory, to see the salt pond in its glory, and even our hills to extent.
That just goes back to the lack of vision that we have for St. Maarten. I don't mean to quote the Bible again, but how God says, like, if you're lukewarm, he'll spit you out.
Yeah, correct.
Right now, we just have a identity crisis in St. Maarten, and it's not only hurting our politics, our finances, our culture, but it's also hurting our infrastructure. We're like in between two like American ideologies and European ideologies, right? The American side is more of a capitalistic approach where let's just make this dollar, open up that shop, open up this like factory, let's go. And then the European approach is a bit more like, okay, slow down, relax. I mean, where's your green zone? Where's your buffer zone? Where's this zone and stuff like that? And we're kind of stuck in between the two. Like, we're trying to
state of schizophrenia.
Yeah, we're trying to do two things. Like, I get drawings all the time. One drawing is in meters and centimeters. Another drawing is in inches and feet. Like, we just we need to say, hey,
who are we?
Yeah. Where are we trying to go? And until we decide, okay, if we're going to take the Dutch route and fully embrace all the Dutch laws and stuff, then let's do it 100%. Teach Dutch majority in our classes and our subjects. Or if we're going to take the other route and say, no, we're going to create our own vision and stuff like that, then remove the Dutch, transfer all our laws to English, and let's take that route fully. But as long as we're in this lingo where we're trying to please the economics and the capitalistic thing, but then we're trying to be environmentally friendly. It clashes a lot.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that identity factor, because it really boils down to who are you and who do you want to be.
Who do you want to be?
And one of the things that is essential to a nation, one's identity, is land. It is land. We talk about the Haitian Revolution. The basis of revolutions, of wars, tend to be land. And you see it where, one of the examples I always use is Emilio Wilson Estate. There's this video that has always been viral about Emilio Wilson before he died, talking about, that he wouldn't want no shops and stuff on his estate. Hey, now we have a zip line funded by a cruise. It's like, great job to Maarten.
That's a perfect example, right? Like how much money is that zip line generating?
And how many jobs is it?
How many jobs is it generating? You know what I mean? Like let's put it in perspective, like the environmental impact compared to the economical impact. So that's a good point.
Because in addition to that, it's also so I can remember, because I went to Mac school and then academy, which is the best route to take. Okay. It's all good. But I can remember sometimes after school we would leave school, walk down to Emilio Wilson, pick a bunch of pomserettes, pick Kinnips when Kinnips was in season, and then just chill and hang out. But you notice the landscape has changed. And so all around the island, the landscape is changing. But the holders of the land are also changing. And that automatically goes with your culture, your identity. Because even trees have a significance, because those are markers.
And let me tie that back into infrastructure, right? Because so one of the everything, first rule in engineering, everything is connected. So now what happens is when you start developing a lot and you start we call it impermeable surfaces like asphalt, concrete, and rooftop stuff like that. The more impermeable surfaces you create with your development, the more flooding disasters you have. Because man, we're gonna have to go school a little bit.
That's cool.
Because the flooding is a rapid response to the lack of infiltration of the ground. So the ground is not taking up as much water as it should be. Instead, the water is falling on these impermeable surfaces, and the water flow, the runoff is more. The volume is more, but it's not going into the ground like it should be, and therefore it starts to affect your greenery, your trees. You get a lot of more erosion and stuff like that because of this negligence, to being green. Something that Holland is going into that we need to also start to go into is more permeable surfaces for your parking, for example. So instead of making all your parking concrete and asphalt, there are different. You can use pavers. You can use different type of surfaces that allows the water to infiltrate your ground. You have cleaner water in the pond as a result, and just stuff like that. You create a greener society, and stuff like that. But like you said, development is good, but it has to be controlled. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Because we've also developed faster than we can regulate, as you mentioned.
Yes, definitely. Right now, I think one of my big concerns is I saw that Rami did announce that they are going to release some new building codes. I'm excited to see that. I want to see how in-depth that's going to be, because we do need to have some form of building code that protects us from hurricanes and the environment and stuff like that. I think I could be wrong, but I believe right now we have Euro codes, but they only go up to Category 3 hurricane. So Irma was 5+. So that puts us in a very difficult position where now we ourselves, the Caribbean, need to start investing in our own scientists, in our own innovation, because no one is going to do that for us.
Yeah.
Europe is not going to be like, oh, let's make some building codes for Hurricane 6.
Yeah.
They're never going to get a Hurricane
No.
6. You know what I mean? But we are. So
Yeah.
we need to start putting these things in place. Like,
Development of self.
yeah, development of self. Like, what is our codes? What works for us?
Correct.
And stuff like
Correct.
that. Because, yeah, no, if you keep adapting different codes and stuff like that, copy and paste, it's not going to work.
I love that you said that because, you know, even talking about Hurricane Irma, I remember when that took place. I grew up in town. The house I grew up in right now is, to say on a safe side, I say over 70 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more around 80, but let's say over 70 years old. My neighbor's house, when we stayed there, was 110 years old.
Wow.
And the funny thing about it is, it's the newer part that they built that got damaged. Those old homes feared Irma. It feared Hurricane Lewis. The only damage that it had was because of flying debris.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I say that to say that we have our, let's say, sciences.
Yep.
We have, knowledge and skills that were passed on that we created, but we so look down on ourselves and our capabilities, and we feel like it's not official unless it's Caucasian or European.
Exactly. And that goes back to the identity crisis. I see it all the time. The local construction guys and stuff like that have a lot of family in construction themselves, and their knowledge, they can build you a strong house just like that. Like they know exactly what they need to do. They don't need a bunch of fancy drawings to tell them what to do and stuff like that, and it's going to be a strong, sustainable house. But then you come down now with different codes and different building regulations, and it doesn't necessarily work here. You know what I mean? I remember in the past, Maarten used to build a lot with hip roofs. That's like the houses with like a triangle type of shape and stuff like that. But now we're going into more like modern building, which are flat roofs and stuff like that, which are still good. It still works. But you can see it's a shift in our identity and how we look infrastructure wise. For example, in Saba, I think everyone has to have like the same color, the same type of roof structure and stuff like that. So it's more of a unified look that they present in Saba compared to here, where we have 10 different styles of buildings.
Yeah, and you usually see there's a lot of just blocks. Basically, it's like
with the So that goes back to the identity crisis as well, man. We need to
it's deep, man. It
all connects.
As you said, that's a good rule. Everything is connected. Everything is connected. That is true. And speaking of which, another like as we talk about our change in identity or landscape is our beaches. You have also been one to speak about the decreasing quality of our beaches. Can you share some elaborate more
unfortunately, I think it really hit me this weekend when because my mom is here. She's from the States. She's visiting me this week, and this weekend we spent the whole entire weekend at the beach, and we went to DV Beach. DV used to be such a beautiful beach. It still is, but man, the amount of seaweed and rocks that we were stepping on and stuff like that, and it's it just goes back, like, that's not something that is totally in our control, because that's more of a global warming effect that's bringing in all these seaweed and stuff like that. But that is another expense that is coming fast into St. Maarten. If we don't protect, at the end of the day, the tourists is not coming here for the fancy hotels, and they're coming here for sun, sea, and sand. Like that's it. So if we don't protect that product, like, we could forget about tourism. You know what I mean? So it's an expense that's going to be coming quick. I think Rami purchased a beach cleanup machine. I don't know.
There's someone who also has a machine that before that also uses it. Don't know who it is, so we actually good to find out. But
you see, but we need to come up with some type of sustainable approach to that. Like, what avenues can we use that seaweed for, and stuff like that, how we can make a profit off of it and stuff. We need to turn that into an industry.
I'm glad you said that, because I know that there's this guy from St. Lucia.
My mom was telling me about that.
The guy won a grant, and the guy is soaring because guess what? The whole Caribbean has been dealing with this sargassum. I think that's what we call it, sargassum seaweed that stinks and so forth. And he was able to create fertilizer out of it.
Yes.
And now he sells it. And I mean, I think I forget the name of his company, so I won't mess it up. But basically, that is so empowering, you know, because it's like, here we have a problem, but let's turn it into a solution.
Exactly. And that's the sustainable approach, right? Making an industry out of your problem and making it a profit as well. So, yeah, definitely.
Okay, good. So overall, we touched on that, which was developing fast. Because one of the things I wanted to add is I'm sure like you and everyone who studied in the Netherlands is basically the bikes. They're able to, you know, that you have a lot of people who bike ride and so forth. But, you know, that's something that I guess would be very difficult to add to our infrastructure.
If it's definitely a possibility, but we would just have to change we would have to change a lot of the traffic flows. For example, like, you know how on the French side, like they have like a lot of one-way streets and stuff like that. We would have to kind of take that approach, but we cannot. So there's a lot of two-way streets in St. Maarten that shouldn't be two-way streets. There should be one-way streets, and that would also help with our traffic circulation, our traffic flow as well. And then that would give you the extra space on the side to create these bike lanes and stuff like that. I think that would be the approach. But what happens to a lot of countries?
Any examples? Certain areas like streets that could be.
There's a road when you're going into Sucker Garden right before El Capitan that you turn into that Arch Road. Yes, that road should be a one-way road. Stuff like that. You know, it's very tight. So it's like,
when you make that right turn.
So it's already telling you like, guys, we're not supposed to be a two-way street, you know what I mean? So like things like that, we can find a space, but you can't fall in the trap, which I think happened to the French side, is that they turned some streets into like one-way streets, but instead of protecting the extra space that they got from it, they turned it into parking. So now you still have that tight squeeze. And even I remember when we was doing road design class, and a big part of designing roads is the psychological effects of humans while they drive. When you have things like close next to you, you feel as if you're closer to them than it really is, you know? So like all of these things we have to take into consideration, and it gives the drivers it kind of gives you like a heavy feeling when you're like
anxiety.
Anxiety,
especially driving, especially when a truck speeding down.
Man, I'm always looking at the road like, am I on my side? You know, like, so like,
true.
We need to create some more spacing.
Very true. Glad that you mentioned that, and I do get at the same time, you know, we're island, because, you know, I was talking to someone, and you mentioned like being in Texas is like, you see the difference where they were amazed by how huge, like, I mean, like they say, everything is big in Texas, right? But they put in the perspective of, you know, that they have such great ambition that everything is just big. But at the same time, you know, we're island, we're not,
we can't do
Texas.
That. We don't have that type of land.
We can't do that. I don't think we want to fill in the seat to do that.
And you don't have to. Like, Holland is a perfect example of small, narrow streets, but yet everyone have their space, everyone has their lane, and it's respected and stuff like that. So we have the blueprint, man. It's there for us. So
finally, what I'd like to touch on is, you know, we've seen some infrastructural projects launched with a trust fund. What is your opinion on that, and the development that is promised through St. Maarten?
I think so fortunately, I do think that, God works in mysterious ways, because that trust fund, to me, it's helping keep our economy afloat after this whole pandemic and stuff like that. So as a result, from Irma, we are using this money to sustain our economy. I do think that the development is going a bit slower than it should. You drive around, you still see a lot of houses without no roofs and stuff like that. And I think I can't give too much away because, like, I'm involved in certain projects and stuff like that.
Understood.
But I think we need to fragment the projects a bit more for locals to get involved. And I think we have to go and reach out to the locals as well, to the local construction companies and stuff like that, because a lot of them are not comfortable stepping into that field, into that World Bank, NRPB. A lot of them don't want that pressure, you know. Like I keep like trying to motivate them, like, no man, like go for it and try to get that project and stuff like that. But a lot of them like, no, I don't know the that's another thing, the requirements. You know what I mean? Like sometimes the requirements are so large that it's hard for the local companies to participate. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, the rich gets richer. We need to do a better job of incorporating more local construction companies.
I think it's definitely a learning lesson for us because, I can't list any other moment that Maarten has dealt with the World Bank, whatever. I'm not sure if maybe after Hurricane Lewis, but it was literally a baby then. But it's a learning lesson in the sense of ways in which we can up our game, but also in a sense of a warning on who you go to for assistance, because this is a worldwide issue, whether you deal like with the IMF and so forth.
Rav, I'll tell you something that got me in trouble, right? But you said not to hold back.
Yeah, the news behind the news, bro.
I was fortunate. I got invited to I forget it was. I think the governor he set up this whole thing where the World Bank, they gave a presentation and stuff like that. And I remember it was the president of the World Bank for our region, the Caribbean region. And I hope this don't get me in trouble. I don't mean it no bad in no type of way, but she came on. It was a woman from Pakistan, and she was like the head of the Caribbean region. And like, no offense, but she had a heavy Pakistani accent, and it kind of like took me back. Like, wait, you're head of there's no one in the Caribbean to be the head of the Caribbean region. And I kind of got blasted for it. Everyone was like, yeah, you don't know what the requirements are and blah, blah, blah.
That's a poor excuse.
It felt like an important excuse of what you're telling me, that we don't have like
requirements.
Yeah, we don't have competent people to take that role. It felt a bit disrespectful to me. It took me back a little bit, and it just made me realize, like, man, the Caribbean, we have a long way to go in representing ourselves and our interest, working together and trying to unify our economies and stuff like that. We have a long way to go.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I would like to thank you, man. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you, Ralph. I appreciate
engaging.
it too.
You gave me some points in areas that I self would like to do more research. But thank you so much. The information was very useful and helpful. And I look forward to having you back again.
Thank you, Ralph. And like I told you from the beginning, I see the vision. I like your journalism that you're heading down, man. I think St. Maarten needs more of it. And we appreciate you giving the young people like myself and others a voice. And thank you for your work.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
No problem.
And to our listeners and audience, listeners and viewers, thank you as well for listening to another show of the news the news behind the news. Do take care, and until next time.
Bye. Boom. Boom.